I like the structure on gold today, but there is just no strength and there is no rhythm. There is some rhythm, but it's just too weak, which is unfortunate. Really interesting though. I've never seen so many Doge candles on gold. What the hell is going on? Maybe I've been doing something wrong. Anyway, Nasdaq and crude oil is been sitting in a 25 tick range, 2 and a bit point range, and it's just met the bottom of the range from today. Come down to the low of day. Could see a tumble out potentially. Nasdaq, we've seen come down heavily from the morning to a low at the 680, and then it's been recovering steadily since then. Nasdaq's been creeping up today, recovering from this low at 680-ish. And it's recovered all the way back to this level here at the 800, which it has tagged over the last few days. So there could be some resistance here. If it spends a little time here, there could be some small move I could catch. We'll see. We came up to the 804, pushed down to the 88. So we'll see if anything happens here. Nasdaq is butting up against this 805 level here. It's had 2 pullbacks away from it of decreasing strength. Sitting at 805, 806, just punched up. Crude has started to come back and tagged the 36, 68, 36, 37, 36. Earlier on, the peak of its range was the 47. Had a little punch up to 49, but was respecting 46, 47. Coming down to 24. We've since seen 19, 20, and 23 has run nicely through the bottom of those ranges. This structure of this range in crude is persistent but also sporadic. Rhythm is all off. Nasdaq is slowly climbing higher, it seems. It looks like gold is going to be extremely thin for today. Maybe gold just has days like this. I've never seen it like this before. Maybe gold is on a bank holiday? I don't know. Crude has come up to tag the 38 again, and it's just sitting near it at 34. Would like to see some more rhythm coming in from crude oil. I should probably figure out exactly what I mean by rhythm. I know intuitively, but still. And that's a good demonstration of why you need to be patient and extremely discriminating. The rhythm just wasn't there with crude, even though the structure was trying to be created. We ended up nearly coming down, but pushing back up, and now we've flicked up to the top of this under range that we've created this afternoon from 5 o'clock. We're back up at the 48. Could come to 49. That's the top of the recent spike, but 48. We'll see if it's got the momentum to keep coming up, or if this is where things might turn around again. Flick up to 52. Flick back down to 47. 50. Volatility is increasing. Nasdaq's recovery seems to be losing its momentum. Nasdaq's come up to tag the 820 again. Volatility is increasing. Sat down at the 800 a couple of times. Came up to 822. Is now sitting down at 820. Crude has been trickling up a little bit after breaking out of its 5 o'clock range and is now sitting at 61, 55, 61, 55, 61, which was a bit of a sticking point, roughly sticking area from earlier in the day. I haven't seen any structure or rhythm that earns its place on my trades. Price is coming down, it's leaning towards the 800 again on Nasdaq. After a little spill out to the top side, up to 22. Down at the 03 would be the structure is a little bit sporadic. Had a weaker push down to the downside of the range down here, only getting to the 04. I was looking for 01. Either way, we've come back up now, punching still again up. Tagged the 20. Tagged the 20, 820. This is an interesting point here. Do I really have faith in this? But that would have hit my target. I liked that. That was good. That was just too much for me to hold on for.
I'm sorry.
Not that it should have affected the trade at all. The trade was already on. But my head definitely came out of the game there.
I'm sorry.
I was questioning whether or not I had faith in it there, but I'm happy with that move. Coming down to the bottom of the range here. Is it really a responsible idea to try and... I mean, if the range is going to hold, if we see it come down to the 05, it might come crashing through. Obviously, it could do anything. This is the decision point here. 03, price I wanted before. 04 is what I got. I'm getting out. I'm not sure why something didn't feel right there. We've seen an extension out of the range to the downside now. No, I've made a mistake here. That would have stopped me out. Alright, I need to take a break. Just reviewing the action from before, I liked this first trade, although perhaps I was very apprehensive to enter. This is going to be, I think, probably a theme of what it would be like to find the good entries. Unfortunately, price action virtually never give you a signal that's so undeniable that it seems like a sure thing, which is obviously, as a human, what you really want. I'm glad I bailed on this one. It just felt like it had come down too strongly. For whatever reason, I decided to bail on here. It came down further and came back up. I decided to enter again. I bailed, and as you can see, that was the right decision. I'm not saying that I was some kind of wizard or that my intuition could see the future or whatever. It just didn't feel right to be in that move, and we're back to square one. That's fine. Gold is offering nothing tonight. We've had a spill out to the downside on the Nasdaq range, disrupting the rhythm. We've come down to the 790, returning to the 800, and we are now trickling upwards, settling around the 816 level. The 820 level was the previous peaks of this. This range has been disrupted now, the rhythm's off, so there's obviously no entry simply because it reaches the 820. Anything could happen. Could very well come straight back down from there again. Rotate for a bit, or push up. If it comes down here, that's not a missed move because the trade's already disqualified itself. Crude oil is dead as well tonight. Back up to the top of the range now after a very minor pull down. 821. Nice impulse candle right to the top of it again. Butting up against the 820, 821 area. After the recovery from the spill out down on the downside and the strength with which it's reached the top again, mean reversion is less preferable. But then again, I'm not going to trade a breakout, so this is a stand back moment here. It's just one of those sessions. It looks like everything is a little bit dead. Nasdaq's nice. It has given me, I like that it proved itself at least once tonight. Nasdaq's poked back up again, came up to the 26, now testing the 21 again. No, I sneeze on the recording. Having another tag at the 820 after a spill out to the top side. Tempting to take a trade for a return to the range here. The rhythm and structure has been changed though. Don't know how to feel about it. The rhythm had changed, so a disqualification, but yep, it did work out, so mixed feelings. Actually, I'm fine with it. This is not this anymore, so effectively I'm trading that, and that's no trade there. Alright, we came back down to the 800 on Nasdaq and took a U-turn. The structure is all sporadic now. I've got to try and not let the fart trade make me want to try and force something. 28. Punching up to a new high, 830. Impulse trade there. Should have entered a much higher. I'm just going to leave it from here. Just going to leave it. I'm not settled. Ending the day on a scratch. I should have lost here. I was lucky. Yeah, could have worked. That's me done for tonight, though. That's me done for tonight. Oh, okay, on crude, that's making a very sloppy structure, but it does seem to be, it's consolidating around this 68 level, coming down to 794, 790, and touching the 06 a couple times, peaking at 08. But the structure is all over the place and the rhythm is nowhere. So I'll keep an eye on that. But I think this 56.5 level was a bit of a, or this where it is sitting now at 58.7. This rotation level here seems to be a bit of a decision point. It's come down to meet that today, and now it's rotating around there. It's generally been quite a flat, downwards leaning day. Crude has been a wild ranging in the morning, a step down, and then sort of a flat, messy state. Nasdaq had a nice jump up this morning and then peaked, rotated around the 238, and is now back down at the 200, which was the peak of the morning's little push up. Nasdaq has pushed down out of its range, tagged 83, come up to 87, still deciding where it wants to be. Nasdaq has come down to meet the 200 and it's just been sitting there for the last 6 minutes or so. Again, that was the top of the morning's range. Kissed it a few times, broke through it. It's come down to meet it again now. We have news at 8 o'clock, I think, or 8:30, 8:15, and again at 9:30. Come back up from the 200 to the 218 here. On the Nasdaq, there's still no real solid structure or rhythm that I'm looking for. We could see a visit down to the 200 again, or perhaps to the 06. Gold's back up to its previous push-up peak here. I would love to see it hang around here for a bit, potentially see some structure develop. Just seeing gold break its recent little attempt at creating structure here, and I'm seeing Nasdaq creating a little 85 down to 40 range. Looks like Nasdaq's gonna spill to the bottom, but it's hard to say. And crude has come to return to its bottom of the range here. Haven't seen a full return to the 58.5 on gold, and this little punch up after this weakness to the downside on its range is bringing doubt for this top of the range here. It was trying to build some structure here on gold, but it hasn't quite developed. The structure is very weak. There's no real opportunity there. On the crude, we've come back up to the rotation level, approaching 68. Still no real entry here. And Nasdaq is just floating between its 200 test and its return to the 23. There is a nice structure on the ES, but the rhythm isn't quite with it. Taking the long on the ES. Bracket's a little wide. Looks like it was a mistake. Very ballsy move here on Nasdaq. I'm expecting it to come against me here, but I was betting against a breakout. Target might be a little bit too far. Just give it a little bit more. Come on, there we go. Just gonna stick with what I'm doing for now. I guess I was just trying to branch out because I was a little bored. I want to be the trader of my dreams. I don't want to just throw darts. And attempts of a structure being formed here on gold, but not very high conviction. It is getting better though, potentially. And a similar story here on crude. Spilled out to the low side here, back to the middle. No reoccurring price. Could argue that the 7011 is higher range, but it's very sporadic. Not a very high conviction. No real tempo, no rhythm. My goal for this session is emotional detachment from outcomes and price action. I want to get in the habit of reminding myself what my daily goal is. Behavioral change is the real goal, the real change that's going to make a difference, rather than focusing on being profitable. Emotional entanglement in the price action and outcomes of trades is the biggest hurdle, and also human nature. Return to the top of the range on this crude, spilling out to the top, up to the 15 and down. Still again, no rhythm, continuity, seeing gaps even. Gold down it, spilling out to the downside, 7.3, 7.6. Gold is hovering down at the bottom of its recent bracket, sitting down at the 67.5, lightly spilling past it. Crude has come down after its retag of the previous day's high at the 7.22. We've come down to 7.13, top of the recent range, wicked straight back. Part of me is experiencing the idea of wishing I could have faded that move. That would have been a failed breakout. That would have been fading a breakout trade there, which is what I'm after, but the time scale was way too far. Textbook example was the Nasdaq from earlier on the previous recording. Gold has broken its formation, it's come down to the 666 again. Last attempt down here came down to the 65.4, 65.2. It's coming down with strong momentum here. Nasdaq is sitting at the 230. It's looking crowded and random. Still only just gone 7. Nasdaq's tunneling in a strange manner around this 2030 level, coming down to the 2024. Gold is down at the 666 again, or 65, tagging its recent push past 66. Seems to be a bit of a floor area that it's created for the day. It's come down heavy today to it at this point. It's pushed past its previous spill out. Now we're down at the 65.0. The temptation would obviously be to try and scalp some sort of single candle move out of this tunnel on Nasdaq, but that's a low probability impulse move to take. Unless I see anything that's high conviction, I want to see my rhythm in my structure. That may not come for the rest of today. Could see it develop here, depending on how it behaves for the next 10 minutes, 15 minutes or so. Everyone's tentative because there's a bit of news coming at 8:45, but on a day like today, could see something develop. Crude has got a sporadic, messy structure here. Low rhythm, no rhythm. Nasdaq sitting at its all-time high again. No wonder it's flatlining. In fact, I shorted the all-time high. Not bad. Didn't even realise. An attempt at structure on Nasdaq here, but Again, the rhythm's off. No trade is better than a forced trade. I'm sure Katie's gonna get tired of hearing all of these cheesy little mantras.
Never.
Prophets are like eels. How easily they slip away.
Sporadic momentum here on NASDAQ. Tempos all over the place, rhythms all over the place. Structure is, it's just rotating around 30 with no real rhyme or reason. There has been a better attempt at structure on crude here, but tempo's off for now.
The structure is crude.
Oh, it's a very crude structure. Structure is broken on crude, coming down to the 94, 95, recent low of 79, 77. Getting a little bit more structure on the NASDAQ here, but it's very crowded. Interesting to see what will happen here on the NASDAQ. The structure has sorted itself out here, but this spill out is making me wary. But this 37 seems like a nice price. The rhythm has only just started to come in here. 38, 39, up to the 40, tag to the 40, down at 38 again. What was the high we came up to? 46 before. This range is very crowded here. I feel the adrenaline. I'm not relaxed. Touching the peak here, creeping up. This is breaking the recent structure. So, tempo is incorrect for this kind of move. If this comes down here, that's not my plan. I'm going to leave it. I don't care if that comes down. I mustn't care if that comes down. That's not my plan here. This was not enough conviction. I should have wavered here. And even then, this is a bit of a disqualification, so just too random. That's fine. That's totally fine. If that goes up, I shouldn't be vindicated. It is simply a decision not to enter with lower conviction. It is not a prediction of what will happen. NASDAQ is showing me that it can't decide where it wants its range to be. Came up to its peak, retested its mini ceiling here, and then came back up again to its peak. Hovering near 42, 43. Hovering near my original entry, 45, 44. A messy range developing here on gold. Down at the 63. Came down to the 63.2 before sitting almost here. I'm not seeing very strong tempo or rhythm here. It's sporadic. It may just be my imagination, but it feels like crude and gold haven't quite settled in yet into this new contract. Can you give me the trade of 8 ticker symbols for all of the ones you've just suggested? Gold's broken the formation down here. It looks like Nasdaq is retesting the high of day up at the 61. Crude is doing its threadbare tunneling that it so often does at this point. I don't see any trades lining up here. Gold was attempting something here from 7:30, but nothing with a decent enough. Possibly could have entered here, but still, I want high conviction. I think I'm going to call it there for the evening. I'm happy with that. I'll leave it at that. Just an ending note observation. Nasdaq has nicely tagged this previous high of day. The day type is ranging very flat, so to me it feels like unlikely to break out to the upside. But at the same time, that's not my plan in my trade plan to try and fade such a long and sporadic range, especially as there's only some semblance of structure and zero tempo to speak of. So I'm happy to see that, to leave it at that, and I shall come back tomorrow. Attempts of a structure being formed here on gold, but not very high conviction. It is getting better though, potentially. And a similar story here on crude. Spilled out to the low side here, back to the middle. No reoccurring price. Could argue that the 7011 is higher range, but it's very sporadic. Not a very high conviction. No real tempo, no rhythm. My goal for this session is emotional detachment from outcomes and price action. I want to get in the habit of reminding myself what my daily goal is. Behavioral change is the real goal, the real change that's going to make a difference, rather than focusing on being profitable. Emotional entanglement in the price action and outcomes of trades is the biggest hurdle, and also human nature. Return to the top of the range on this crude, spilling out to the top, up to the 15 and down. Still again, no rhythm, continuity, seeing gaps even. Gold down at, spilling out to the downside, 7.3, 7.6. Gold is hovering down at the bottom of its recent bracket, sitting down at the 67.5, lightly spilling past it. Crude has come down after its retag of the previous day's high. At the 722, we've come down to 713, top of the recent range, wicked straight back. Part of me is experiencing the idea of wishing I could have faded that move. That would have been a failed breakout. That would have been fading a breakout trade there, which is what I'm after, but the time scale was way too far. Textbook example was the Nasdaq from earlier on the previous recording. Gold has broken its formation, has come down to the 666 again. Last attempt down here came down to the 65.4, 65.2. It's coming down with strong momentum here. Nasdaq is sitting at the 230. It's looking crowded and random. Still only just gone 7. Nasdaq's tunneling in a strange manner around this 2030 level, coming down to the 2024. Gold is down at the 666 again, or 65, tagging its recent push past 66. Seems to be a bit of a floor area that it's created for the day. It's come down heavy today to it at this point. It's pushed past its previous spill out. Now we're down at the 65.0. The temptation would obviously be to try and scalp some sort of single candle move out of this tunnel on Nasdaq. but that's a low probability impulse move to take, unless I see anything that's high conviction. I want to see my rhythm and my structure. That may not come for the rest of today. Could see it develop here, depending on how it behaves for the next 10 minutes, 15 minutes or so. Everyone's tentative because there's a bit of news coming at 8:45, but on a day like today, could see something develop. Crude has got a sporadic, messy structure here. Low rhythm, no rhythm. Nasdaq's sitting at its all-time high again. No wonder it's flatlining. In fact, I shorted the all-time high. Not bad. Didn't even realise. An attempt at structure on Nasdaq here, but again, the rhythm's off. No trade is better than a forced trade. I'm sure Katie's gonna get tired of hearing all of these cheesy little mantras.
Never.
Prophets are like eels. How easily they slip away.
Sporadic momentum here on Nasdaq. Tempos all over the place, rhythms all over the place. Structure is, it's just rotating around 30 with no real rhyme or reason. There has been a better attempt at structure on crude here, but tempo's off for now.
The structure is crude.
Oh, it's a very crude structure. Structure is broken on crude, coming down to the 94, 95, recent low of 79, 77. Getting a little bit more structure on the Nasdaq here, but it's very crowded. Interesting to see what will happen here on the Nasdaq. The structure has sorted itself out here, but this spill out is making me wary. But this 37 seems like a nice price. The rhythm has only just started to come in here. 38, 39, up to the 40, tag to the 40, down at 38 again. What was the high we came up to? 46 before. This range was very crowded here. I feel the adrenaline. I'm not relaxed. Touching the peak here, creeping up. This is breaking the recent structure. So, tempo is incorrect for this kind of move. If this comes down here, that's not my plan. I'm going to leave it. I don't care if that comes down. I mustn't care if that comes down. That's not my plan here. This was not enough conviction. It should have wavered here. And even then, this is a bit of a disqualification, so just too random. That's fine. That's totally fine. If that goes up, I shouldn't be vindicated. It is simply a decision not to enter with lower conviction. It is not a prediction of what will happen. Nasdaq is showing me that it can't decide where it wants its range to be. Came up to its peak, retested its mini ceiling here, and then came back up again to its peak. Hovering near 42, 43. hovering near my original entry, 45, 44. A messy range developing here on gold, down at the 63. Came down to the 63.2 before sitting almost here. I'm not seeing very strong tempo or rhythm here. Bit sporadic. It may just be my imagination, but it feels like crude and gold haven't quite settled in yet into this new contract. Can you give me the trade of 8 ticker symbols for all of the ones you've just suggested? Gold's broken the formation down here. It looks like Nasdaq is retesting the high of day up at the 61. Crude is doing its threadbare tunneling that it so often does at this point. I don't see any trades lining up here. Gold was attempting something here from 7:30, but nothing with a decent enough. Possibly could have entered here, but still, I want high conviction. I think I'm going to call it there for the evening. I'm happy with that. I'll leave it at that. Just an ending note observation. Nasdaq has nicely tagged this previous high of day. The day type is ranging very flat, so to me it feels like unlikely to break out to the upside. But at the same time, that's not my plan in my trade plan to try and fade such a long and sporadic range, especially as there's only some semblance of structure and zero tempo to speak of. So I'm happy to see that, to leave it at that, and I shall come back tomorrow. Nasdaq's down at the bottom of the range here after a weaker push to the top. I preferred to have taken a short here on this. Seeing some structure develop here on Nasdaq, and the rhythm isn't too bad either. I'd like to see how high it can come up here. If we can touch the 44, perhaps to the 46, and see it. Would have liked to see it come higher if I was going to take a move for this, take a short. I'd love to see it come up here and hang around for a bit. Crude came down to the 80 and now it's just deciding what it's going to do. Gold has been ranging, it's down, just come up from the 666. Let's see what Nasdaq does here. It came up to the 44, 45. I'm happy with the tempo and the structure, so if this one fails, then I'm still happy with the trade I took. There we go. Well done. I would call that a textbook move, and it worked out. My goal, I think, My key goal at the moment is to, like I was talking with the chat about, is to focus on detachment, emotional detachment from the outcomes of my moves and price action in general. It's this emotional entanglement which is getting in the way of behaving how I want to behave. And that goes both ways. If a trade works out for me, then I should be more focused on taking the correct trades than how they turn out. This has come back down to the bottom of the range here, but that's moved quite heavily. I would say the tempo has shifted now. It's broken the structure and the tempo has changed here. It could very well come back up, but we would be talking about trying to trade a different range. Gold's come back to tag the 666 again. We're at 6.4. Last time we came down to 6.1. Peaked a little bit before this last push down to it. I wouldn't say there's any significant rhythm or structure here that I'm willing to trade. Gold and crude seems to have been all over the place for the last few days, but Nasdaq has further distanced itself from its previous rhythm and tempo and structure after breaking down to the outside. Not quite, only coming back to the middle of the range before having another stab to the downside, so we're changing into the grey again. Logical destination is down to the 200 again on there. I'm not saying that will happen, but coming back to look at the Nasdaq, that's come down, broken the structure, and now we're in different territory here. So forgetting about this, moving on. Looking at gold, that's messy again. The structure is too spread out if I'm trying to find some bracket here that I'm looking for. So yeah, I can't see anything developing on gold anytime soon. If we go to crude, yeah, not much. If I hung around here for the next, if that's all we get today, then that's fine. No trade is better than a shit forced trade.
It's the same voltage, but the wattage is...
The voltage is just
yeah.
the voltage will always be the same
Yeah.
because
The thing is that they probably need to get a really light one on the wall, because the wall is just really
shit.
It's
Yeah.
like, yeah. So yes, that is my heater that they keep like breaking.
Interesting. Why? Have they not just changed the heater?
They put a new one on.
The whole heater?
A new heater, yeah.
And it blows again?
Yeah.
Right, there's a reoccurring issue then, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. The one in the heat in the drying room has broken twice, and the one in the main room has broken once.
I think our recording just picked up all about your heaters.
Hey, good listening to in the morning.
Seeing a messy structure trying to develop here on crude, but yeah, momentum, rhythm's all off, sporadic, don't like it, but I'll keep an eye on it. Same with gold, there's something coming here, but again, momentum isn't the same on either side, spilling out from the top and underperforming on the bottom. Just keep an eye on it. Bounced off the 66 again. Sitting in the middle of this range, so if nothing comes, nothing comes. Nasdaq's had another ranging day, flatter than yesterday. That would have been a lovely short just then that I missed. Coming up to, I think that might be a new all-time high. Tried to get to the 500, didn't manage to. Peaked at 496. We've touched 490 a couple of times today and dropped down by 40 points. Just came back up to the 90. Had a sharp turn away from it, hovering up at the 83. Sketchy, but no trade just yet. Gold has come down, third time today, it's meeting its daily low, which is sort of the previous day's afternoon high. Crude is in a messy sort of short-term range after finding a floor down at 68, 69, coming down to 58. We've got 10 ticks here, but the structure is all over the place. So, as usual, the only thing to do is to sit back, sip my tea, and wait for something good to grow. Today, my goal is to focus on emotional detachment from my entries, from my price action, from the outcomes of any trades. I also need to know in my heart that I am happy and willing to watch price and potentially not take any moves. Crude has made its way back up to the 468.84. The structure is almost there, I think, with this trade, but the rhythm is far too stretched out. The tempo is way too slow and sporadic. Nasdaq has reached the top of its range again, tagging the 90, 91, hovering around 86. Just see how it develops here. Not happy about taking a short here yet. The rhythm is all spaced out for the whole day. That's not a typical move for me. Although if I'd had the chance, I might have considered taking the 92 at the top here. Gold has returned to the top of its little range here at the 677. That's quite interesting. There's a bit of structure developing there. The structure has spilled out a couple times and now it's returned there, so keep an eye on that. Missing a trade is infinitely better than forcing a trade and taking a poor trade. Keeping an eye on gold and the Nasdaq here. Gold looks like it's recovered strongly up to the 677.5 level from earlier. Bottom of the afternoon range, top of the evening range. Recovering after a retest of the day's low. Nasdaq and gold are both sitting at interesting levels. Crude is starting to behave itself better than in the last few days, but it's still a little odd, which is fine. I like these three instruments. I'd like to see Nasdaq come up to the 92, 93 area. Peaked at 96 earlier. 93, 94. Has no rhythm yet though. Coming back to the 90. 91. Alright, spiked up to the 500. That's the new all-time high. Is that gonna shatter through? Tempting for a fade here, but the rhythm is all off. The beige book is happening. It looks like we're holding at 500 here. Had a little check back down to 93. We're holding for now at 500. Peaked up at 504. The day type to me suggests that a breakout is unlikely, but anything could happen. And we have just broken all-time highs again, so like it's holding, at least for now. Alright, we're back down to the 500, and we've come back down to the 96, the previous high for the day. Gold has returned to its evening range. It's in the middle of the range so far. I think I'm going to resign myself from trying to find something on this Nasdaq move. If it returns to the range, it will do so in a tempo that's not really in my plan. I would like to see gold settle in the 77 to 75 area, just like it was earlier, and start to respect some levels. It looks like Nasdaq could potentially carry on. Crude's come down to revisit its previous low again. Spilled a little bit past it, and now is sitting back at the 55, 58 level. It's come down quite strongly, I'd say. Again, the structure on crude here is close to what I would like, although it's a little bit spilly out. The momentum is sporadic. Nasdaq is holding above 500. It's just tagged to the 510. Crude is still hanging around here at the low of day. Coming down to 55 again. 62, 55. Spilled out to the 50. 54 was its previous spill outs. Just sitting at the low of day again. Gold is tagged the top of its previous range after ignoring the spill out to the 77.5. Like to see gold come down to the 75 and see how it behaves when it comes down here. This structure is still, it's hinting at it, but this was the old structure, this broke the structure. And the momentum, everything changed after this. It's trying to return to what it was doing before, but I'm not seeing it yet. It's going to take a bit more development. It's not quite mature enough. The trade will come eventually on its own schedule, not mine. That might not be today, it might not even be tomorrow. These are close, and in some ways these moves qualified, but not in all ways. And I want to only take the trades that align with everything that I'm looking for, even if that means missing moves. I can feel the urge to take a move here. Gold, Nasdaq and crude are all nearly sitting in the way that I like, but all of them are missing key. Gold's come back up to the 77. Weaker push down and a stronger push up. I don't like that tempo. If it wasn't for this spill out on gold, I would quite like this setup now. Doesn't look like anything's going to develop tonight. Gold came close. There was something that almost happened here on Nasdaq, but the structure was too crowded. I'd be hesitant to fade a move on this back to the upside, just because of the potential to return to the day's range on Nasdaq. Much prefer to take a short from the top, but again, structure, tempo, nothing's there. We're back down again on the gold here. A bit further would be nice. And we're approaching this bizarre range that's created on crude. It's 8 o'clock now. I'm not sure if there's enough time for something to develop. Gold's got a lot of space to the downside. 75.1, 75, could be down to 73.8. This is an older structure here, but at least down to 75.1. Turning to the 515, 516 on Nasdaq. Increase in volatility, crowded structure. Came up to a high of 19 last time. Going for the 20. I think it tagged 20 there for a second. Yep. This isn't in my plan to trade. I know it. If this comes down now, that's got nothing to do with my plan. And that is just a test of my emotional detachment. Gold is hovering back down at the 75. It's just spilled out. Going down to this 75.1. Didn't manage to return to the top side. Gold still has space to come down, I think. 74. Came up to tag the 20 twice. And it's come back down to the top of the range. Hovering at 18 on the Nasdaq. Crude has crept its way back up to the top of its recent two ranges, although it had spilled out to a new low. Gold has come down to the 74 and recovered back up to the 75.1. The tempo has gone. It was nearly there on gold today, I think, and on Nasdaq a couple times. I'm recognizing a strong urge to try and fade this on Nasdaq. If I look at this price action though, it's showing me nothing. Nothing that I would be able to enter in and say I'm comfortable with this move. I think I'm going to leave that there tonight. None of my setups have come, so that's fine. Good night. Gold is hovering around the 52.1 after retesting its low of the 46.6. Had a bit of a pullback away from it, down to the 50, and now it's back up again. If it hangs around here for a while, it might develop some structure that would be quite nice. Nasdaq came down to the 481 level, recovered to the middle of its day's range at the 520-ish or so. Earlier on in the day, it was bouncing off of, found a bit of a floor at 500. 500 was here, and now it's sort of rotating around the 515 level. Crude has come down to a retest, a bit of a support resistance level for the day around the 50, 60 level. 68, 50, 68, 60. More interested in the Nasdaq and the gold today. I also don't want to feel emotional entanglement if a trade I think is good moves against me, or if it goes to my profit. All I really want is to be able to take a trade, and regardless of the outcome, I want to watch the trade happen, all the while knowing that if I rewatch the move, I would have taken the same trade, that I'm still happy with the decision regardless of the outcome. The gold's come down here to the 50, 52, 54, earlier came down to 56, tag to the 52, sorry I meant the 50, the 50.2, 50.5, it's come up to the 52 a couple times. There's still not enough structure for me to really want to take this trade, but back up to the 2.4, 2.5, breaking out of the structure. Earlier is the 53. Nasdaq is camping out at the bottom of the day's range here. It's hit the 490 a couple times, wicked back from the 885, 86, just not developing any structure. Here we go. Gold's tunneling again. No structure or rhythm, just drifting. We're at the 53.2, came up to 54.1, 54.6 was the peak, 52.8, down as low as 51.3, nothing, no real rhythm, tempo or structure. Still not seeing anything really develop. Gold is trickling around this 52 level, but it's doing so with no structure or rhythm. Nasdaq is ranging, but it's too wild for my type of entry, too inconsistent. Okay, gold is nudged up at 54.4 again a couple of times, 54.3. There's still not enough rhythm here, but the structure is beginning to form. A ballsy move would have been to short up here at 54.3. The structure is here. I have one ingredient, but I need... Of course, what I want to see is a perfect setup and then to take it, but I also need to watch out for congratulating myself for not shorting here if it goes up. The only thing I should congratulate myself for is taking trades, follow my plan, watching every shift down, every flicker in the direction, and thinking if only I had entered there is a habit of a immature trader. Just no matter which way I spin it, I can't find any rhythm or structure here. This crude on the 3 minute is showing me something, but that would surely be an experimental trade. But that rhythm is really elongated, far beyond my normal plan, which is a strange thing because the rhythm and the structure is basically there. If that was scrunched up, if this was on let's say a 5 minute chart, that would be my trade. And there's the pang of regret of not doing it as I see it spill out to the downside. Am I just taking a trade because I want to, or is this an experiment? I don't know. If I took this move, my target would have to be huge. It's nearly 8 o'clock. I think the thing to do is to sit out and just watch. Okay, it's 8 o'clock and nothing's really developing. I'll leave the charts up. I'm going to go do some pull-ups or something. Come back in 10 minutes. If I don't see anything better, then that's it for tonight, I think. These 1 hour, 15 minute or 90 minute blocks seem to be a good little sweet spot for me. My setup isn't the type of setup that's going to develop in that last half hour of price action anyway. It looks like crude has come back up to the spill out area. We came up to the 71 before, we're sitting at 64. Had a little bump down from its previous little ceiling at 62, came down to 51. Didn't really like that down move. Gold is sitting at the top of this little range here, but the rhythm and structure isn't there. Just not ideals. Just not an ideal session, and that's fine. Over time I'll know how much I can push my luck and develop this edge. At the moment I'm heavily leaning into extreme discrimination. But it will develop over time as I continue to watch. For instance, this move here on gold. Last night, there was a good opportunity on gold that I did actually vocalize at the time. So it's just all a learning process and constant experimentation.